Welcome to the League of Women Voters of Snohomish County Forum for candidates for City of Everett Council, Position 6. I'm Karen Crowley, incoming president of the League. Now, this forum is being live streamed to our YouTube channel, so to those of you in the virtual space, thank you for joining us. We refer to these primary forums as virtual doorbelling. We'll ask a short series of questions, the kind of questions you might ask if a candidate came to your door. Our questions are designed to give you a clear idea of each candidate's experience and the issues that they feel are important to address. A recording of this forum will be available on this same YouTube channel for later viewing. Now, let me provide some background on the position itself. Council members manage public services, sewer, water, fire, police, roads, and parks. They establish and enforce local laws affecting individuals and businesses, including local taxes. They control how land can be used. They provide direction to the city mayor or the city manager, and they manage relationships with other governments, nonprofits, businesses for the benefit of city residents. Candidates for the City of Everett Council Position 6 are Scott Bader, Demi Chatters, and Brian Hennessy. Bill Wheeler is a candidate, and he is not participating this evening in the forum. The League thanks all the candidates for running for office, for their willingness to serve the community if elected, and for participating in this forum. Now, it's the policy of the League to be nonpartisan, and therefore we neither endorse nor oppose candidates or parties. We do take positions on issues which we've studied and on which we've reached consensus. The rules for participation were sent ahead of time to the candidates, and they've agreed to engage in respectful communication throughout the forum. Let me briefly explain the question and answer period rules, then we can begin. I'll pose the questions. I'll clearly state the amount of time allowed for each answer. We're using a countdown timer. It's visible to all the candidates. Time limits on answers will be strictly enforced. And I'll change the starting order for each question, alternating candidates in the starting position to ensure a fair sequence. The order for the first question will be Brian Hennessy, then Scott Bader, then Demi Chatters. So let's begin. Candidates will have 2 minutes to respond to this first question, and it is, what are the major issues that you feel need to be addressed by this office? And please explain why you are focusing on these issues. Mr. Hennessy.
Well, first, good evening, everybody watching online or watching the recording later. My name is Brian Hennessy. I am a longtime resident of Everett. However, I left Everett in 2001 and joined the Coast Guard for the last 20 years, having retired 3 years ago, actually, back here to Everett, and I live in the Northwest Everett neighborhood. The two issues that I think the City Council needs to focus on are the two major issues. Are two issues that the City Council are already focusing on, and I want to just continue that positive progress that I, from my perspective, having left to serve the country for a couple decades and coming back, I see that Everett has made a lot of strides in the right direction, though there's still a lot of work left that the city needs to do. And of course, I give credit to the council members for the last couple decades, including former council member Scott Bader, who's also on this forum. So number one, drug use and mental health issues that are in Everett. We have a duty as council members and as citizens to look out for those who are unable to look out for themselves. And I think that we need to do better at making that happen. And we will continue to make that to do better. And second is housing affordability and availability for all of us. I support the multifamily home construction. As everyone knows, there's tens of thousands of people projected to move into Snohomish County and especially Everett. And we need to, in order to help find those homes, we need to streamline inspection processes for the city and, if possible, relook at making apartments into condominiums. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Same question to you, Mr. Bader. Your primary issues that you feel need to be addressed.
Thanks very much. Good to be here with you all tonight. Certainly number one is public safety. It's clearly the top issue, as I've doorbelled through thousands of homes already, and it's the issue that comes up most often, far and away. Our residents have told me they regularly see law breaking without consequences and it's either impacted them directly or makes them feel unsafe. And while there's strong support in the community for compassionate offers of support for those who need them, if there are little or no consequences to law breaking, I fear support for that compassionate help will wear thin. Residents talk to me about the shoplifting, the dangerous driving, the unreasonable noise, the camping in public, trespass, burglary, theft, and jaywalking they see. I think those are all issues that need to be dealt with. Many people who might engage in those maybe are living on the streets. I think people want to reach out to them and offer them help. And we've done that in many ways already. How do we do that better is something I think our residents support doing. But again, they want to see consequences as well if there is law breaking, and because they want to feel safe as they go about their business as well. I think the second thing I hear about is the need to make sure we're properly funding our basic services. Whether it's our libraries, our parks, our roads, our sewers, our water, all our citizens have a vested interest in making sure those are well funded. And I hear that as well, that we want to make sure we're prioritizing those basic services. Finally, I think other quality of life issues. How do we continue to make Everett a desirable place to live and work, especially when compared to other nearby communities? Have nice downtown, nice amenities throughout the city for everyone to enjoy. Thanks.
Thank you. And Ms. Chatters, to you, same question.
Am I off mute? Sorry. Hi, I'm Demi Chatters. Thank you for having this forum and allowing us to be here this evening. As a city council member, my primary goal will be to be responsible and responsive to the residents of Everett. While I hear many different issues being raised by community members, ranging from worker protections to childcare scarcity to environmental protection and combating climate change to business development, to the arts, to the built environment of our city and investing in infrastructure for our future, by far and away the most frequent topics that I hear community members concerned about are housing and homelessness and safety on our streets. I continue to hear from so many folks that they struggle to find housing that meets their needs in terms of cost stability, affordability, or location, or available transportation infrastructures, or other amenities in general that they're looking for in their neighborhoods. And I hear from folks in their 20s and 30s in particular that they don't see a pathway to ever owning a home here in Everett. And this issue is only being exacerbated by our rapid growth as the county seat and the economic and cultural center of our region. With regard to public safety, I hear from the community that they respect and appreciate the work of our public safety personnel, and they want to see our public safety workers have shortened response times to calls. They want to see a visible presence on our streets in areas where they have seen or experienced dangerous conditions. I also hear a tremendous outpouring of compassion for our unhoused residents who are living the traumas of trying to survive on the streets, and through our totally inadequate network of shelter beds and crisis intervention services. And our folks here in Everett, they want to see those services expanded and those networks built. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidates will have 90 seconds for the next two questions. So timer, please adjust the clock. And this question will go first to Scott Bader. And the question is this: we've heard your main issues. What qualifications and experience make you a good choice to address these issues? 90 seconds, Mr. Bader. Please come off mute.
Thank you. We knew someone was going to make that mistake.
We did.
I've served on the city council already for almost a decade, working on many of these issues. And with obviously there's still work to do, but we have demonstrated accomplishments. For instance, we've approved Claire's Place as a place for people who are homeless to get services and live as well, get them off the streets. At the Gospel Mission, we've supported putting pallet shelters behind the Gospel Mission as well, and other efforts too. Also, I've worked as a recognized leader in the region, serving on as I served on City Council. I was chair of the Puget Sound Regional Council's Growth Management Subcommittee, and also served as the chair of the Administration Committee of the Snohomish County Health District. So I've been recognized leader as well as serving on president of the Everett City Council 2 times in my previous service on the council. So we've worked with those collaboratively also with other jurisdictions to do good things and bring good things to Everett, including things such as air service to Payfield, commercial air service, improvements to the waterfront, improvements to downtown. And also I would mention, I think my leadership has gained me the endorsements of those who work most closely with public safety, our police officers, our firefighters, our county prosecutor, our transit union obviously has to deal with the public safety as well as they drive their buses. So anyhow, I think those examples show my experience in addressing those issues.
Thank you. Ms. Chatters, same question for you.
Thank you. Well, I have extensive postgraduate education in business, strategic planning and finance. I've worked in the public service industry, private industry. I've owned a small business. I'm currently the director of operations at a small business. And I'm also a working mom of 4. So basically, I am a professional problem solver. And those are the skills that I bring to my work, my volunteer work as a community advocate. As the chair of our planning commission here in Everett, I understand the urgency of proactively revising our local land use and zoning codes to prioritize easing cost burdens for housing on our residents. We currently have about 49,000 housing units. We will need to add 37,000 additional housing units by 2044 to meet our projected demand. So this is going to require really listening and understanding the experiences of all of our residents and transparently communicating a pathway forward that respects our neighborhoods and our shared history, while also ensuring that our city stays a place of opportunity for decades to come. And because of my own lived experience and as a vice chair for the Snohomish County Human Rights Commission, I am acutely aware of the impact of policy decisions, not only on working families, but on vulnerable populations that are struggling with the burdens of things like houselessness, mental health issues, substance use disorder, and other conditions of crisis. I have a depth of knowledge and history of leadership that we need to get the job done. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Hennessy, to you, qualifications and experience.
Okay, thank you. So sticking with the 2 major issues that I mentioned at the beginning, drug use and on our streets. Well, my background, I was a federal law enforcement officer for those 20 years, having seized tens of thousands of drugs in the high seas and prevented those drugs from coming into the United States. So I'm quite familiar with drugs and drug use and seeing that those afflicted with addiction, especially here in Everett, the fentanyl users, how it's very tough to get somebody back sober and introduced into society again. I think that we as a society need to take care of those folks, and we can do that. Whether or not they're not going to want to be helped, and we need to help them. They're helpless, and that is our job as citizens, is to help others. And so having those 20 years as a commissioned officer, as a federal law enforcement officer, and as a leader of people, getting the job done. As for housing affordability and availability, working with the council at large position, I have the experience from an officer position to help make things happen. Leadership is getting to a goal and helping influence others to achieve that goal. And I think that I have those qualifications to make that happen.
Thank you. Our third question, we'll start this with Ms. Chatters. And the question is this: councils, commissions, and boards are required to deliberate and make decisions in public and to hear from those whose ideas may differ. Can you please give us an example that demonstrates your ability to work in this way?
Thank you. The example I'll draw from actually is from our most recent Everett Planning Commission meeting. We had a very heavy agenda with the need to move some recommendations onto the council, as well as to establish consensus around some elements of the growth alternatives being studied under the comprehensive plan update. It just happened to also be that many of our neighbors in the vicinity of the Everett waterfront were just made aware of some decisions around the port naval compatibility area that was very concerning to them. We don't usually get huge crowds for planning commission meetings, although you should join, they're fun. But for the first time in years, the gallery was really packed with folks who were there to testify about what they felt would be negative impacts for themselves and their property. And so my goal was to ensure that every single resident who showed up had an opportunity to express their concerns. So all of us commissioners, as well as the port staff and the city staff in attendance, could hear directly from them on that issue. And many folks were quite passionate and some were downright angry, but all of them needed to be heard and deserved to be heard. So this extended our meeting quite late into the evening, but we did get all of the business done. And some of the residents even hung out after their testimony to watch the rest of the meeting and stayed and chatted a bit afterwards. And all in all, it was a successful evening and a great learning experience for everyone in the room that night.
Thank you for that. Mr. Hennessy, same question for you.
Yes. So an experience that I've had in the past, as a regulator, a federal regulator, there's been many instances where I've had to help the public figure out how to manage the laws and come into compliance with whatever the water safety law. For example, in Seattle a few years ago, there were several commercial vessels that were heading out to the Arctic to drill for natural resources. And there are many who did not like that idea, kayaktivists they were called, and Greenpeace and those type of entities, which, personally I agreed with them. However, I was a regulator in that instance. And so I had to have meetings and try to talk to them about the law and the consequences for violating that law. And it was very contentious. And in fact, even after that, people still were trying to obstruct commercial commerce. And in fact, I even issued a fine to one of the Seattle City Council members in that year. But there are many instances like that where I've had to reach out to the public to try to inform, especially when contentious issues are coming down the pipe, how we're going to manage this and to get everybody on board, or to find out what the concerns, so that way we can modify some sort of regulatory issue, and it's worked out.
Thank you for that. And Mr. Bader, same question for you.
Yes, I think the issue I'd point to was where Everett was considering a federal grant to add more police officers. And when we initially started our deliberations, the council was very divided, and in fact, initially I was the only one who was in favor of it. But as we got more information and worked together, we came to a resolution where the council actually switched its vote and was almost a unanimous majority in favor of accepting that grant. And also it came about as a result of public input. And I would point out that public input in meetings isn't the only way to do it. In fact, when I was my service on council, I would see far more public input actually via email. And I think that was an important way to engage with people as well. And when that would happen too, I think it was important to make sure that those giving us input had good information about that, because unsurprisingly, they don't spend as much time looking at the issues as those of us on council typically do. So sometimes they had incorrect impressions about what was going on, and I would stand up, in fact, for the members who initially weren't in favor of my position, and to make sure those people who were commenting and sometimes vociferously actually had good information so they could understand where the other council members were coming from. And also I point to my work with council neighborhoods and going to many neighborhood meetings.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Well, we said we were going to ask 4 quick questions. It's gone quickly and we're on the final question. Timer, please note that candidates have 60 seconds for this final question and adjust the timer. We'll start this time with Mr. Hennessy. Please tell us something about your life experience that might surprise or intrigue voters. Mr. Hennessy.
Okay. Many might not know, but I am a stay-at-home dad now. I've been stay-at-home dad for the last 3 years, though, since my wife is a public school teacher and I hear that they're sometimes short staffed, I do go in and substitute from time to time. And I also, something else kind of interesting, while I was in the Coast Guard for the 20 years, I was stationed in areas like New York City, New Orleans, San Diego, the U.S. Virgin Islands, where my first of 2 daughters were born. My daughters are both, one's in first grade, starting first grade in September, one's starting 5th grade in September. And I retired from the Coast Guard out of Chicago. So I've been all around the United States getting that kind of interesting experience. That was my eldest daughter. And one last interesting thing, I was actually born in Ireland and came to the United States as an infant.
Thank you for that. Mr. Bader, same thing, same question for you. You can surprise and intrigue us here.
Yeah, maybe not too surprising or too interesting, but I'm a regular and frequent user of public transit. I ride our buses, whether it's Everett Transit or neighboring jurisdictions buses and other public transit on a regular basis. And obviously, I think you get exposed to a much broader slice of life by doing it. You run into a whole different group of people than you might run into necessarily as you're out driving when you're just in your car. And so that's taught me a lot about people who are out there in the community, wide variety, and also see many of the situations that a lot of people deal with in terms of just being able to get around, mobility, how we can enhance that and help them, how great, for instance, our Everett transit drivers are. Very, very friendly and very helpful. So seeing now the riding transit, I see a lot of the impacts on people's lives and potential solutions for people. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Chatters, you have the last word.
Thank you. One thing that most people don't know about my life experience is that I am a survivor of childhood domestic violence. And this subject can be hard for folks to talk about because even though there shouldn't be, there's often shame around having experienced it. But I mention it to help remove the stigma and also because we all deserve safe communities. And sometimes a lack of safety is a result of what's happening inside a home. Domestic violence is often linked to stressors, economic stressors, mental health issues, substance use issues, and all of these elements are directly impacted by policy decisions at various levels of government. And this is yet another reason why I will use the City Council platform to build partnerships and regional system capacity for service providers who can help create safe homes for vulnerable people. You can learn more about me at votefordemi.com. I'm Demi Chatters, and I'd be honored to earn your vote. Thanks for sharing this time with us this evening.
Thank you. Well, and thank you all. The League appreciates these candidates for joining us and for running for office. A recording of this forum and others will be available on the League of Women Voters of Snohomish County website and YouTube channel, and you can find links at lwvsnoho.org. We encourage you to explore additional information about these and about all candidates. The Snohomish County Voters Pamphlet will be mailed to residences starting July 12th. Primary election ballots will be mailed starting July 13th, and Election Day is August 1st. Please be a voter. Thank you to our League Candidate Forum team, and special thanks to Dave Moon and the Sultan School students at TurkPride.tv who made this live stream possible. And of course, thank you all for joining us. This concludes our Candidate Forum.